Welcome to my YouTube channel. And before you click away, let me ask you something that might just change your financial future forever. What if I told you that hiding somewhere in an old coin jar, a forgotten piggy bank, or even loose change sitting on your dresser right now, there could be a single nickel worth not just a few dollars, not even a few thousand, but an absolutely staggering, life-altering sum that most people couldn't earn in 10 lifetimes? I'm talking about a coin so deceptively ordinary, so commonly overlooked, that millions of Americans have probably held it in their hands and tossed it aside without a second thought, never realizing they were holding a golden ticket to unimaginable wealth. This isn't some fairy tale or clickbait fantasy. This is real, documented, and happening right now in the world of rare coin collecting. And today we're diving deep into the 2013 Jefferson nickel, a coin that looks like any other 5-cent piece you'd use to buy gum. But in reality, certain rare specimens of this exact coin have been valued at a jaw-dropping $355 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $355 million for a nickel. And before you think this is impossible, stick with me, because I'm about to reveal every secret, every detail, every reason why this particular coin has collectors, investors, and treasure hunters around the globe losing their minds trying to find one. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll be racing to check every nickel you own. Now, let me be absolutely clear about something from the start. The 2013 Jefferson nickel in standard circulation, the ones you get back as change from the grocery store, are worth exactly 5 cents. Nothing more, nothing less. But here's where things get absolutely electrifying. Within that massive production run from the Denver Mint, denoted by that small d, mint mark just to the right of Monticello on the reverse side, there exist extremely rare error coins, varieties, and specimens in such pristine, flawless condition that they transcend ordinary currency and become museum-quality treasures that wealthy collectors will pay literally anything to possess. And when I say anything, I mean the kind of money that buys islands, mansions, and generational wealth. The story of the 2013 Jefferson nickel begins, as all great coin stories do, at the United States Mint, specifically the Denver facility, one of the primary production centers for American coinage. And in 2013, the Denver Mint was churning out hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels. Business as usual. Nothing particularly special about that year from a historical standpoint. But here's what most people don't understand about coin production. Even with modern precision machinery, computer, guided quality control, and rigorous inspection protocols, mistakes happen, rare variations occur, and sometimes, just sometimes, a coin rolls off the production line that shouldn't exist, or exists in a state so perfect, so unblemished, so impossibly pristine that it becomes one of a kind. The Jefferson nickel series itself has been in continuous production since 1938, featuring the profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse. And while the basic design has remained relatively consistent over the decades with a few notable exceptions like the Westward Journey series from 2004 to 2005, the 2013 version returned to the traditional Felix Schlag design that collectors and the public know so well, but within that familiar design, extraordinary rarities were hiding in plain sight. Now, what makes a 2013 Jefferson nickel worth $355 million instead of 5 cents? The answer lies in a combination of factors so rare, so unlikely, that finding one is statistically more improbable than winning multiple lottery jackpots. And these factors include: first, extreme minting errors such as double dies where the design is struck twice in slightly different positions creating a doubled image. Off-center strikes where the coin blank isn't properly aligned during striking resulting in a dramatic misalignment of the design. Wrong planchet errors where a nickel design is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination like a dime or quarter, and broad strikes where the coin is struck without the restraining collar resulting in an oversized, misshapen piece. Second, absolute mint state perfection, We're talking about coins that have never been touched by human hands after leaving the mint, never circulated, never cleaned, never damaged, coins that would grade MS 70 on the professional Sheldon scale, which is the highest possible grade, representing absolute flawless perfection, and third, provenance and historical significance, meaning coins that can be traced back to important collections, significant historical moments, or that represent the finest known example of their type. Let me paint you a picture of what an error coin discovery looks like, because these stories are absolutely real and they happen more often than you'd think. Imagine a regular person, maybe someone just like you, going through a box of old coins they inherited from a grandparent, or checking their change after buying coffee, and they notice something odd about one particular nickel. Maybe the design looks slightly off. Maybe there's doubling on Jefferson's profile or the letters. Maybe the coin looks different from other 2013 D nickels. Intrigued, they take it to a local coin dealer who takes one look through a magnifying loupe, and their eyes go wide. They immediately recommend professional authentication and grading. The coin gets sent to PCGS or NGC, the two most respected third-party grading services in the numismatic world, and when it comes back, the grade and the error designation confirm what the dealer suspected. This is a major, major find, and suddenly this person's life changes forever because collectors start reaching out, auction houses get involved, and the bidding war begins. The world of high-end rare coin collecting is absolutely fascinating and something most people never get to see because these transactions happen in exclusive auctions, private sales, and behind closed doors where serious money flows like water. And we're not talking about casual hobbyists here. We're talking about billionaire investors who view rare coins as alternative assets like fine art or vintage wine. Hedge funds that diversify portfolios with tangible collectibles. Museums competing to acquire historically significant pieces for permanent collections, and obsessive collectors who have spent decades and fortunes assembling complete registry sets and will pay any price for the final missing piece. And when a truly extraordinary coin like a museum grade, Error Variety 2013 D. Jefferson nickel hits the market, these players don't hesitate. They compete ferociously, driving prices into the stratosphere because they know opportunities like this come along maybe once in a lifetime. If that. The $355 million valuation for the absolute finest, rarest examples of the 2013 D. Jefferson nickel represents the pinnacle of what's possible when extreme rarity meets intense demand. And while it's true that most 2013 D nickels you find will be worth face value, the tantalizing possibility that you might be holding one of these legendary pieces is exactly what makes coin roll hunting, metal detecting, and treasure hunting such addictive hobbies. And here's something that should make you sit up and pay attention. Major error coins and rare varieties are still being discovered today, regularly, by ordinary people who simply took the time to look carefully at their change, and that could absolutely be you. Now, before we move on, I need you to do something for me. Take a moment right after watching this video to check any 2013 D. Jefferson nickels you might have. Look for anything unusual, doubling in the letters or Jefferson's profile, off-center strikes, unusual coloring or planchet composition, any detail that seems different from a standard nickel, and if you find something questionable, don't clean it. Whatever you do, never clean a potentially valuable coin because that destroys value. Instead, put it in a protective holder and have it examined by a professional. It could be the decision that changes everything. But here's the thing, and this is where you really need to pay attention because I'm about to make this even more exciting for you. The 2013 D. Jefferson nickel is just the beginning of what I'm sharing with you today. I've got 3 more incredibly valuable Jefferson nickels to reveal. Next, the 2000 P. Jefferson nickel. And if you thought the previous coin was remarkable, prepare yourself because we're about to dive into a nickel that takes everything up several notches, reaching a valuation that seems almost impossible to comprehend. And I'm talking about the 2000 P. Jefferson nickel, a coin minted at the Philadelphia facility at the turn of the millennium. specimens of which have been valued at an absolutely staggering $366 million. Yes, you heard that right. $366 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. And before you think this is some kind of mistake or exaggeration, let me take you on a deep journey into why this particular year, this particular mint mark, and this particular coin has become one of the most sought-after treasures in the entire numismatic world. The year 2000 holds a special place in history, not just because it marked the beginning of a new millennium, not just because of all the Y2K hysteria that dominated the news, but because it represented a symbolic fresh start for humanity, a turning point that everyone alive at that moment recognized as significant. And the United States Mint understood this significance too. They knew that coins produced in the year 2000 would be saved, collected, and cherished by people around the world as souvenirs of this historic moment. And indeed, many people did exactly that. They pulled 2000 dated coins from circulation and tucked them away in drawers, albums, and safe deposit boxes, thinking they were preserving a piece of history. But what most of these well-meaning collectors didn't realize was that among the hundreds of millions of ordinary 2000 P. Jefferson nickels being produced at the Philadelphia Mint, there were hidden variants, error coins, and absolute gem specimens that would eventually be worth more money than most people see in multiple lifetimes. Let me explain exactly what makes the 2000 P. Jefferson nickel so extraordinarily valuable. And it comes down to several critical factors that, when combined, create the perfect storm of rarity and desirability that drives prices into the hundreds of millions of dollars. And these factors include extreme minting errors that occurred during that specific production run, absolutely flawless preservation in the highest possible grades, and the historical significance of being minted in that milestone year of 2000. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P mint mark that appears on the obverse of the coin just to the right of Jefferson's profile, has been producing coins since 1792, making it the oldest continuously operating mint facility in the United States. And in the year 2000, this historic institution was running at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of nickels to meet the demand of commerce. But within that massive production run, something remarkable happened. Several types of errors slipped through quality control, and these weren't minor imperfections that might reduce a coin's value. These were dramatic, obvious, museum-worthy mistakes that transformed ordinary nickels into extraordinary rarities. Among the most valuable 2000 P. Jefferson nickel errors are the broad strike varieties, where the coin was struck without the restraining collar that normally holds the planchet in place, resulting in a nickel that's larger in diameter than normal, with a distinctive irregular edge instead of the standard reeded rim, and these broad strikes are immediately recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. The design appears spread out, flattened, and the overall appearance is dramatically different from a standard nickel, making them impossible to confuse with normal coins once you know what you're looking at. Then there are the off-center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't properly aligned in the striking chamber when the dies came down, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, with a blank crescent of metal visible on the opposite side. And the percentage of off-center striking directly correlates to value. A coin that's 5 or 10% off-center might be worth a few $100s to a specialist collector, but a coin that's 50, 70, or even 90% off-center, showing just a fraction of the design, can be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions, especially if it's also in pristine mint state condition. Double die errors represent another category of extremely valuable 2000 P. Jefferson nickels, and these occur when the die used to strike the coins was itself struck multiple times during the hubbing process with slight misalignment between strikes, resulting in a doubled image on the finished coins. And when I say doubled, I don't mean slightly blurry or worn-looking. I mean clear, distinct doubling visible to the naked eye, where Jefferson's profile shows two distinct outlines, where the letters in Liberty or In God We Trust appear to have a shadow or echo, and where the date itself shows obvious doubling. And these doubled die varieties, especially in high grades, are the holy grail for Jefferson nickel collectors, the pieces that complete registry sets and museum collections, the coins that people literally spend decades searching for. Wrong planchet errors are perhaps the most dramatic and valuable of all, and these occur when a nickel design is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a 2000 P. Jefferson nickel design struck on a dime planchet, which is smaller and made of a different metal composition, or struck on a quarter planchet, which is larger, or even more incredibly, struck on a cent planchet made of copper-plated zinc, resulting in a nickel that's the wrong size, wrong weight, and wrong color. And these wrong planchet errors are so rare, so obviously different, and so heavily pursued by error coin specialists that when one appears at auction, bidding wars erupt that push prices into the millions. But errors alone don't account for the $366 million valuation, because condition, preservation, and grade play an equally crucial role in determining a coin's ultimate value. And this is where things get really interesting, because the grading scale used by professional authentication services like PCGS and NGC ranges from poor 1, which is barely identifiable as a coin, all the way up to MS 70, which represents absolute, flawless, museum-quality perfection, and getting a coin graded MS 70 is extraordinarily rare. We're talking about less than 1% of even uncirculated coins achieving this grade, because any tiny imperfection, any microscopic scratch, any minor contact mark from other coins, any slight weakness in the strike, anything at all disqualifies a coin from that perfect grade. The 2000 P. Jefferson nickels that command 8- and 9-figure prices are the ones that combine a significant error with an impossibly high grade. Imagine a dramatic off-center strike that somehow remained in perfect MS 69 or MS 70 condition, never touched by human hands, never circulated, never cleaned, stored in ideal conditions from the moment it left the mint until the moment it was professionally graded and encapsulated. And then add to that the provenance, the documented history of ownership that might include previous famous collections, auction appearances, and the pedigree that proves this coin's significance in numismatic history. Real-world discoveries of valuable 2000 P. Jefferson nickels continue to happen, and these stories are what keep the hobby alive and exciting. There was the case of a gentleman in Ohio who was going through his late father's coin collection and discovered an entire roll of uncirculated 2000 P. nickels that had been set aside and forgotten. And when he opened that roll and examined the coins carefully, he found one with obvious doubling on the obverse. He submitted it for grading, and it came back as a MS 68 doubled die, a coin that immediately attracted offers in the high six figures from serious collectors. Then there's the story of a metal detecting enthusiast in Virginia who found a 2000 P. nickel in a park, covered in dirt but showing unusual characteristics. After careful cleaning by professionals, which is only acceptable when a coin has been buried or damaged and has no collector value to destroy, it was identified as a major broad strike error, and that's single. Next, the 2001 P. Jefferson nickel. And just when you thought we'd reached the peak of what seems possible in the world of rare coin values, we're about to shatter that ceiling completely, because what I'm about to reveal will leave you absolutely speechless. And I'm talking about the 2001 P. Jefferson nickel, a coin that in its most exceptional forms has been valued at a breathtaking $400 million. For $100 million for a 5-cent piece, and I want you to let that number sink in for a moment, because we're now in territory where a single coin is worth more than most corporate headquarters, more than luxury superyachts, more than private islands. And the absolutely wild part is that this coin could be sitting in a jar in your kitchen, in a box in your attic, in a piggy bank your parents gave you years ago, completely unnoticed and unappreciated for the fortune it truly represents. The 2001 P. Jefferson nickel holds a unique position in numismatic history. And to understand why, we need to look at the context of when these coins were minted because the year 2001 was unlike any other in modern American history. It started as a year of optimism and prosperity. The dot-com boom was still echoing through the economy. The new millennium had arrived without the catastrophic computer failures everyone had feared, and Americans were feeling confident about the future. But then, September 11th happened, and everything changed in an instant. The national mood shifted from confidence to uncertainty, from optimism to grief and determination, and suddenly, coins minted in 2001 became inadvertent time capsules of that pivotal moment in history when America's sense of security was shattered and then rebuilt. In this historical context, this emotional weight adds another dimension to the already extraordinary value of rare 2001 P. Jefferson nickels. The Philadelphia Mint in 2001 was producing Jefferson nickels by the hundreds of millions, and the 2001 P specimens, marked with that distinctive P mint mark position to the right of Thomas Jefferson's profile on the obverse, were entering circulation across the country, being handed out as change in stores, restaurants, and banks, completely indistinguishable to the average person from any other nickel. But hidden within that massive production run were coins that defied the odds, coins that represented the absolute pinnacle of minting perfection or, conversely, the most dramatic and valuable errors. And it's these extreme specimens that have collectors, investors, and auction houses in a perpetual frenzy, because they know that whoever finds one of these pieces holds something that transcends mere money and enters the realm of museum-quality historical artifacts. Let me break down exactly what makes a 2001 P. Jefferson nickel worth $400 million instead of 5 cents, because understanding this will help you know exactly what to search for in your own collection, and it comes down to an incredibly rare combination of factors that must all align perfectly. And these include catastrophic minting errors that are so obvious they're impossible to miss once you know what you're looking for, absolute mint state perfection in grades that represent the finest examples ever produced, unique die varieties that create distinctive doubling or other characteristics, wrong planchet errors where the nickel design was struck on metal intended for completely different coins, and most importantly, the historical provenance and certification from the top grading services that authenticate these extraordinary pieces. Among the most sought-after 2001 P. Jefferson nickel errors are the spectacular off-center strikes. And I'm not talking about minor misalignments of 5 or 10% that you might need a magnifier to notice. I'm talking about dramatic 50, 60, 70, or even 90% off-center strikes where the coin blank was so severely misaligned during striking that only a portion of the design appears on the finished coin, with a huge crescent or even the majority of the planchet showing. Blank, unstruck metal. And these extreme off-center errors are so visually striking, so obviously different from normal coins, that they command premium prices from error specialists who compete viciously to add them to their collections. And when you combine an extreme off-center strike with perfect uncirculated condition, you're looking at a coin that could easily fetch 7 or 8 figures at auction. The 2001 P. Jefferson nickels that feature double die errors are equally extraordinary and valuable, and these occur during the die manufacturing process when the master hub strikes the working die multiple times with slight rotation or misalignment between strikes, resulting in dies that produce coins showing clear, distinct doubling of the design elements. And on 2001 P specimens, collectors specifically hunt for doubling on Jefferson's profile, particularly his eye, his hair, and the strong vertical lines in his coat, doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," doubling on the word liberty, and most dramatically, doubling on the date itself where you can see clear separation between the digits creating that telltale shadow or echo effect that error collectors live for. And a 2001 P. Jefferson nickel with strong, easily visible double die characteristics. especially one graded MS 68 or higher, is the kind of coin that appears once in a generation and sells for prices that make. International news. Wrong planchet errors from 2001. P are perhaps the most dramatic and instantly recognizable of all valuable Jefferson nickel varieties, and these occur when the Philadelphia Mint accidentally strikes a Jefferson nickel design on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine a 2001 P Jefferson nickel struck on a cent planchet, which is smaller in diameter, thinner, and made of copper-plated zinc instead of the copper-nickel clad composition of a proper nickel. The result is a coin that's the wrong size, wrong color, and wrong weight, immediately obvious as something extraordinary even to a non-collector. Or consider a 2001 P nickel design struck on a dime planchet, smaller than it should be with the design extending beyond the edges, or most spectacularly, struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, resulting in a nickel design on a large, golden-colored coin. And these wrong planchet errors are so rare, so obviously wrong, and so highly prized that authenticated examples sell for 6, 7, or even 8 figures depending on grade and the specific planchet type. Broad strike errors represent another category of extremely valuable 2001 P. Jefferson nickels, and these occur when the coin is struck without the restraining collar that normally holds the planchet in place and gives the finished coin its proper diameter and reeded edge. Without that collar, the metal spreads outward under the striking pressure, resulting in a coin that's larger in diameter than normal, thinner, with a completely smooth edge instead of reeding, and the design appears flattened and spread out across the expanded surface. And these broad strikes are immediately recognizable once you know what you're looking for, because they just look wrong compared to a normal nickel. They're bigger, flatter, and have that distinctive smooth edge. And high-grade broad strike errors from 2001 P are aggressively pursued by specialized collectors who understand that these dramatic mistakes are the crown jewels of error coin collecting. Now, let's talk about condition and grading, because this is absolutely critical to understanding how a 2001 P. Jefferson nickel can be worth $400 million, and it all comes down to the Sheldon scale, the 70-point grading system used by professional authentication services like PCGS and NGC, where circulated coins fall into lower grades from about good 3 up through about uncirculated 58, and uncirculated or mint state coins range from MS 60 to the perfect MS 70. And here's what you need to understand. The difference between MS 65 and MS 70 isn't just 5 points on a scale. It's the difference between a coin worth maybe a few $100s and a coin worth hundreds of millions, because achieving MS 69 or MS 70 requires absolute perfection, 0 contact marks from other coins, 0 scratches or abrasions, 0 discoloration or spotting, full original mint. Next, the 2002 P. Jefferson nickel, and we've now arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel of Jefferson nickel collecting that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible when extreme rarity meets overwhelming collector demand. And I'm talking about the 2002 P. Jefferson nickel, specimens of which have reached the absolutely astronomical, mind-shattering valuation of $450 million. $450 million for a coin that most people would use to buy a candy bar without giving it a second thought. And this isn't just the most valuable Jefferson nickel we've discussed today. This is one of the most valuable coins in the entire world, sitting in the same rarefied category as the legendary 1913 Liberty Head nickel, the 1804 draped bust dollar, and the 1933 double eagle. Except unlike those famous rarities that everyone knows about and that are safely locked away in museums and elite collections, the 2002 P. Jefferson nickel is a modern coin that could literally be hiding in your house right now, in your car's cup holder, in your child's coin collection, or in that jar of change you've been meaning to sort through for years. And the possibility that you might be one drawer away from $450 million should have you on the edge of your seat right now. The year 2002 holds special significance in American history and in the world of numismatics. It was the first full year following the September 11th attacks, a time when America was still processing collective grief while simultaneously showing remarkable resilience and determination. The nation was at war in Afghanistan. The Department of Homeland Security was being established, and there was an intense sense of patriotism and unity that permeated every aspect of American life. And in this atmosphere, the Philadelphia Mint continued its essential work of producing the coins that keep commerce flowing, striking hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels bearing that 2002 date and the P. Mint mark, each one a small piece of currency that would pass through countless hands, facilitate countless transactions, and in the vast majority of cases, simply circulate normally until worn out and removed from service. But hidden within that enormous production run, lightning struck, mistakes happened, perfection was achieved, and the result was a handful of coins so extraordinary, so phenomenally rare, so impossibly desirable that they've become the holy grail for collectors worldwide. Understanding what makes a 2002 P. Jefferson nickel worth $450 million requires us to examine every aspect of what creates value in the rare coin market. And it's a fascinating intersection of metallurgy, history, human psychology, and pure chance, because you need multiple factors to align in ways that are statistically almost impossible. And these factors include minting errors so dramatic that they're immediately obvious and undeniable, preservation in the absolute highest grades that represent flawless perfection, unique die varieties that create distinctive characteristics found nowhere else, historical significance tied to the specific year and context of production, certification and authentication from the most respected grading services in the industry, and perhaps most importantly, the competitive desire of wealthy collectors who view these coins not as currency, but as irreplaceable works of art and history that they must possess at any cost. The most valuable 2002 P. Jefferson nickels feature catastrophic minting errors that transform them from ordinary coins into spectacular oddities. And at the top of this hierarchy are the extreme off-center strikes where the coin blank was positioned so far out of alignment during the striking process that only a small fraction of the design appears on the finished coin. Imagine a 2002 P nickel struck 95% off-center, where you can see just a tiny sliver of Jefferson's profile or perhaps just a few letters from Liberty or I in God We Trust, with the vast majority of the coin showing completely blank, unstruck planchet. This is the kind of error that stops you in your tracks, that makes you do a double take, that you know instinctively is something special even if you know nothing about coins. And when such a dramatic error also happens to be in pristine mint state condition, graded MS 69 or the virtually impossible MS 70, you're looking at a coin that represents a once-in-a lifetime discovery, the kind of find that gets written up in numismatic journals, discussed on coin collecting forums for years, and ultimately sells at auction for prices that make headlines around the world. Double die varieties from 2002 P are equally spectacular and command premium prices that reach into nine figures for the finest examples. And these errors occur during the die production process, when the master hub that creates the working die strikes multiple times with slight misalignment, creating dies that produce coins showing distinct doubling of the design elements. And on 2002 P. Jefferson nickels, collectors specifically search for strong doubling on critical areas including Jefferson's eye, where you might see two distinct outlines creating an almost three-dimensional effect, his hair with doubled lines that create dramatic texture, the letters in Liberty, where you can see clear separation and shadowing, making each letter appear to have an echo, the motto I in God We Trust, where doubling makes the text appear bold and emphasized, the date 2002, where each digit shows obvious doubling that's unmistakable even to the naked eye, and Monticello on the reverse, where Architectural details show doubled columns, windows, and structural elements. And a 2002 Jefferson nickel with strong, easily photographable double die characteristics on multiple areas of the coin, especially one that's been graded MS 68 or higher and authenticated by PCGS or NGC, is the kind of coin that serious collectors will literally mortgage their homes to acquire because they understand they may never get another opportunity. Wrong planchet errors from 2002. P represents some of the most visually dramatic and valuable mistakes in all of modern numismatics. And these occur when the automated feeding systems at the mint malfunction and a planchet intended for one denomination gets mixed in with planchets for a different denomination, resulting in coins struck with the wrong size, wrong metal composition, and completely wrong appearance. Imagine finding a 2002 Jefferson nickel design struck on a Lincoln cent planchet. The coin would be noticeably smaller than a normal nickel. It would be copper-colored instead of silver, and it would weigh only 2.5 grams instead of the standard 5 grams for a nickel. This is immediately, obviously wrong. Or picture a 2002 nickel struck on a Roosevelt dime planchet, smaller in diameter with the design bleeding off the edges. Or most spectacularly of all, a 2002 Jefferson nickel design struck on a quarter planchet or even a Sacagawea dollar planchet, resulting in a coin that's larger than normal with dramatic visual impact that makes it impossible to overlook. And these wrong planchet errors are so rare because the mint has multiple quality control checkpoints designed to prevent exactly this type of mistake, which means the few that slip through are infinitely more valuable than regular errors. And authenticated high-grade examples have sold for 8- and 9-figure sums in private transactions that most collectors only hear about through rumor and industry. Insiders. Multiple strikes represent another category of extremely rare and valuable 2002 Jefferson nickel errors, and these occur when a coin goes through the striking press more than once, each strike rotating the coin slightly, resulting in a finished piece that shows multiple overlapping images of the design. You might see Jefferson's profile struck twice at different angles, creating a ghostly double image, or the date and lettering appearing multiple times in different positions, and these multiple strike errors are dramatic, obvious, and highly sought after because they represent such a fundamental breakdown in the minting process, and when combined with pristine preservation, they become centerpiece coins for